I sat in my office on the 19th floor of Riverfront Tower, gazing thoughtfully across the sunlit Austin skyline as morning rays glittered off the tranquil Colorado River. Employees were streaming into Vertex Systems' state-of-the-art tech campus directly across the street, completely unaware that the sophisticated framework orchestrating their entire internal network, from secure badge access to instant data synchronization, ran entirely on software built by the very woman they had once openly dismissed. Just 6 years ago, at the age of 24, I had been the youngest back-end developer in Vertex Systems' coveted innovation hub. This is wishful thinking at best, scoffed Victor Sterling, the legendary founder himself, reclining arrogantly in his handcrafted Italian leather chair as he disdainfully flipped through my meticulously prepared prototype slides. Are you seriously suggesting that a clustering algorithm written by someone barely out of college could boost our internal efficiency by nearly half? I steadied my voice, forcing calmness into every syllable. Actually, Victor-controlled lab tests repeatedly demonstrated an average optimization improvement of around 67%. And yes, it scales beautifully. He waved his hand dismissively as though brushing away an irritating fly. Haley, I'm not here to entertain hackathon gimmicks. Vertex Systems demands mature enterprise-grade solutions, not clever science fair submissions. My team lead Lauren Carter attempted to speak up for me, but Victor, her prototype, consistently outperformed every single legacy system we've benchmarked against. It's robust. Legacy, he retorted sharply, is built over decades. Misread, not crammed into a weekend. He always refused to address me fully, as though my surname wasn't worth his effort. Return to your assigned responsibilities, or you'll find yourself without any. I left that room humiliated, clutching my laptop so tightly my knuckles turned pale, feeling the sting of tears held back by sheer pride. Yet things would only worsen 2 weeks later. Late one evening, a soft notification chimed from my computer. My system access was oddly still intact. Curiosity overwhelmed caution, and I clicked through. Buried deep inside a project directory ominously labeled Project Horizon, I discovered the unthinkable, every detailed diagram, and painstakingly annotated code snippet I'd poured countless hours into, now brazenly bearing Lauren Carter's name on every single page. They had stolen my creation, yet it became rapidly clear they had never grasped its intricacies. What Vertex rolled out was a butchered, compromised imitation, stripped of critical security protocols and burdened with unnecessary dependencies, destined from its inception to collapse spectacularly. I could have exposed them. I could have launched legal action, made a public spectacle. But I chose something infinitely more satisfying. Silently, methodically, I rebuilt the entire system from scratch under a new identity, streamlined, reinforced, virtually bulletproof. Today, Vertex Systems pays handsomely for licensing my software, utterly dependent on a technology they still fail to realize is controlled by the engineer they wronged years ago. The morning after that discovery, I walked out of Vertex quietly, head held high, and spent the next 3 relentless years immersed in lines of code. Investors initially dismissed my startup Nexatech as another doomed venture bound to fail, until they saw the performance metrics. Nexatech quickly rose, licensing our enhanced platform, now named Flowcore, back to corporate giants, including, ironically, Vertex itself. Today, every launch at Vertex, every system reboot, every critical database query runs seamlessly through the very software Victor Sterling had once arrogantly labeled a childish project. The difference is now they pay dearly for it, and I never had to raise my voice or argue. I simply elevated my standards. My resignation had been professional and brief. Citing personal ambitions, I provided the standard 2 weeks' notice and departed quietly, taking nothing but my laptop and a patent discreetly secured under my legal name. No one questioned me. No one imagined the youngest engineer on staff might have been prudent enough to safeguard her creation. The subsequent months tested my limits. I rented a cramped studio apartment near South Lamar, surviving mostly on microwave meals, caffeine, and sheer determination. Holidays, weekends, even my own birthdays blurred into an endless cycle of relentless coding. Flowcore rapidly evolved, transitioning from a straightforward efficiency tool into a dynamic adaptive control matrix capable of restructuring enterprise communications on the fly. It wasn't just software anymore. It had become a digital nerve center for modern businesses. Everything shifted dramatically at the prestigious Baytech Summit in San Francisco. It was there I met Sophia Mitchell, a renowned venture capitalist famed for backing visionary boundary-breaking technology. Unlike others who politely scanned my presentations, Sophia actively engaged. How does Flowcore's lattice structure handle distributed data spikes? She pressed earnestly, scribbling notes and diving deep into technical complexities. Our conversation stretched late into the night, until the cleaning crew politely hinted it was time to leave. As we stood to say goodbye, Sophia shook my hand firmly. This is truly groundbreaking. Why hasn't anyone successfully executed this before? I smiled knowingly. They've tried. Vertex Systems attempted their own simplified clone last quarter. She hesitated briefly, realization dawning. Wait, that catastrophe was your work? Their stripped-down version, I clarified calmly. This is mine. Sophia laughed sharply, understanding instantly. That debacle nearly destroyed half their innovation division. You realize every major enterprise is scrambling to build exactly what you've perfected. Precisely, I replied, confident and ready. $5 million for 22% equity, she offered without hesitation, and complete access to my enterprise network. 10 days later, Nexatech was officially incorporated. Backed by Sophia, doors swung open to opportunities I'd previously only imagined. Within months, major contracts started flowing and cementing Flowcore's position as the industry standard, and no one at Vertex ever realized the truth behind the enigmatic Lena Morgan listed on all official documents. But one morning, an unexpected email arrived titled simply, Strategic Collaboration Inquiry. Dear Ms. Morgan, it began formally. I'm Victor Sterling, CEO of Vertex Systems, Inc. We're currently modernizing our enterprise framework and have been closely following Nexatech's impressive advancements. We'd greatly appreciate a conversation about potential collaboration. I reread his carefully polite message several times, savoring every carefully chosen word. They weren't merely reaching out. They were silently begging. Elena was the first to notice the familiar name appear quietly in our client management system. Moments after spotting it, she dialed my number, her voice brimming with delighted mischief. Please tell me you're taking that meeting. She practically laughed into the phone, savoring the irony unfolding before her eyes. Oh, I will, I replied, my voice, even my gaze fixed intently upon Vertex Systems' imposing headquarters across the river. The gleaming building loomed large in the panoramic view offered by my spacious corner penthouse office in downtown Austin. But not yet. Elena laughed again, her voice warm with admiration. You're ruthless, Haley. I love it. I allowed Victor Sterling and his executive team to stew in their discomforting silence for 2 excruciating weeks. During that time, Vertex's stock stumbled sharply downward by another 12%, while industry analysts whispered urgently about internal chaos and imminent restructurings. Victor offered vague reassurances in carefully orchestrated media appearances, attempting to mask his evident unease beneath promises of strategic pivots. Witnessing his discomfort was a satisfaction so profound, so unexpected, it startled even me. When the moment felt right, I sent a carefully worded, polite reply, making clear my willingness to discuss potential collaborations, but explicitly on my terms. They would come to my ground. On the appointed morning, adrenaline coursing through my veins, I climbed onto a treadmill in my private gym atop my building, the rhythmic cadence of my footsteps echoing with every memory of humiliation I'd endured 6 years prior. Each relentless stride seemed to erase a fragment of that stinging past when Victor Sterling had coldly dismissed my vision as immature and insignificant. Now he was coming to me seeking salvation from the very person he had scorned. My assistant's smooth voice crackled gently over the intercom. Ms. Morgan, Victor Sterling and his associates are here. Calmly, deliberately, I slipped into a tailored navy suit, one whose jacket alone cost more than my entire first-year salary at Vertex, and strode purposefully toward the elegantly appointed conference room. As I entered, the expansive walls of glass panels seemed to shimmer subtly in anticipation of the drama about to unfold. Ms. Morgan, Victor Sterling began stepping forward with his trademark swagger-polished shoes gleaming beneath the conference room lights. But beneath his confident demeanor, a thinly veiled apprehension flickered in his gaze, betraying his weakening composure. We greatly appreciate your time. Behind him stood Lauren Carter and 2 senior executives whose faces I knew all too well. Yet not one showed the slightest hint of recognition. It was astonishing, I mused inwardly, how effectively 6 short years, a change of name, and an aura of visible success could transform their perceptions. Please, I said gently, waving toward the plush leather chairs around the gleaming conference table. Taking my seat at the head, I allowed the silence to linger, watching carefully as uncertainty flickered through their eyes. Let them wonder. Let them wait. Let's get straight to the point. Victor finally began, his voice carefully modulated as he folded his hands on the polished surface before him. Vertex Systems urgently requires modernization, and Flowcore's stellar reputation precedes you. I inclined my head just slightly, a calculated gesture of acknowledgement. Then we should discuss precisely what that's going to cost you. Victor straightened, launching into an impressively rehearsed presentation filled with industry jargon, predictive analytics, dynamic scalability, cross-platform neural frameworks, all impeccably articulated, yet unmistakably hollow. He spoke with practiced confidence, but his words felt empty, devoid of true understanding. Lauren Carter nodded obediently beside him, her expression carefully neutral, clearly the architect of his rehearsed lines. When he finished, I allowed a beat of silence before calmly interjecting. An impressive vocabulary, Victor, but I couldn't help but notice you avoided any mention of your previous modernization attempt. The room's temperature seemed to plummet. Victor's polished smile faltered noticeably, and tension creased the corners of his eyes. That particular project was mishandled, he admitted grudgingly, due to poor guidance. Lauren's gaze dropped to her tablet, suddenly intensely interested in its stylus. Poor guidance, I echoed softly, tapping my tablet with deliberate ease. A detailed dossier flashed onto the large display behind me. Do you mean the catastrophic rollout 2 years ago? The one that hemorrhaged $30 million and imploded after just 29 days. Lauren's startled eyes widened involuntarily. How did you— Enough, Victor snapped, regaining control over his slipping composure. He exhaled slowly, recalibrating his tone with careful precision. That's precisely why we're here now. We've learned our lesson, and Flowcore has become the industry standard. Rising slowly from my chair, I walked serenely toward the window, the sprawling Austin skyline glittering spectacularly beyond the expansive glass. Across the shimmering river, the Vertex building stood stubbornly tall, clinging desperately to a fading past. Tell me, Victor, I asked quietly, without turning to face him. Whatever happened to that young developer, the one whose visionary system your company tried and failed to copy, the one whose brilliance you buried so carelessly? A heavy silence descended, thick and stifling. I'm afraid I don't understand your question, Victor replied. His voice strained with forced composure, betraying his fear. I turned slowly, deliberately meeting his gaze, my voice edged with steel. Allow me to jog your memory. A junior developer, young woman, dynamic ideas you casually dismissed as childish. Does that scenario ring any bells? Lauren's face drained of color, eyes wide with dawning realization. Victor's eyes narrowed sharply, scrutinizing my face as disbelief and confusion danced wildly across his features. How do you— With a faint, knowing smile, I returned to my seat and discreetly tapped a concealed control beneath the polished table. Instantly, the expansive wall screen behind me lit vividly, revealing the original Flowcore proposal, every intricate diagram line of annotated code, and at the top emblazoned boldly my original name, Haley Reed. Hello again, Victor. Remember me? The junior developer you once dismissed as naive and insignificant. Pandemonium erupted. Lauren dropped her stylus, hands shaking visibly. A senior advisor uttered a muffled curse beneath his breath. Victor surged to his feet, his face a mask of shocked disbelief and frantic denial. This can't possibly be real, he stammered hoarsely. I calmly folded my hands atop the gleaming conference table, my gaze unflinching. Oh, it's real, Victor, and more importantly, it's justice. You can't be Lena Morgan, he sputtered desperately. Actually, Lena is my middle name, my grandmother's maiden name, in fact, I replied with cool composure. But you once knew me simply as Haley Reed, the developer. You dismissed the one you told to stop pretending she'd built anything worthwhile. Will sue, Victor barked defensively, yet his voice quivered with hollow bravado. Incorrect, I interrupted, smoothly, smiling slightly. Flowcore was fully patented before I ever presented it to Vertex. Perhaps you failed to verify patent records because your outdated systems couldn't handle such queries. Rising, deliberately adjusting the lapels of my jacket, I moved gracefully toward Victor, my tone soft yet sharp. But that's not truly why you're here, is it? You're here because Flowcore now powers your competitors. Each quarter you delay, your relevance diminishes further. He clenched his jaw, desperation raw in his eyes. Name your price. Price, I echoed softly, allowing a quiet laugh to escape. Oh, Victor, you misunderstand entirely. I'm not selling to you. I slid a dossier slowly across the polished table, watching as his trembling fingers grasped the documents. Nexitech is acquiring Vertex. We've already secured 42% of voting shareholders at your current market valuation. By the end of the quarter, Vertex Systems will be ours. Victor Sterling paled, hands shaking violently as he skimmed the acquisition details. This is revenge, he whispered weakly. No, I replied, my voice resonating with calm, unwavering resolve. This isn't personal. It's purely business. Vertex Systems is critically undervalued, burdened by antiquated legacy frameworks, and crippled by outdated leadership clinging desperately to past glories. With the right technological intervention, it can regain its footing. That's precisely Nexitech's expertise, acquiring stagnating firms, rebuilding them from the inside out. I paused deliberately, letting the silence sink deep into the bones of the executives seated around the table before allowing a faint smile to curve gently on my lips. That this acquisition also happens to be poetic justice, well, that's merely a satisfying bonus. Victor Sterling's voice emerged hoarse, barely above a whisper, as he grappled for control. The board. The board won't approve this, he insisted weakly, desperately clinging to the illusion of authority. I responded lightly, tapping the sleek control embedded discreetly into the polished surface of the conference table. Instantly, a luminous display appeared behind me, illuminating an array of digital signatures, decisive board votes, and a prominently glowing green-lit approval. You see, Victor, they already have. You were merely the last to know. Lauren Carter sank slowly into her chair, the fight draining visibly from her body, her shoulders collapsing as though she bore the full weight of the revelation. Her voice, once confident and assured, trembled with uncertainty. What happens to us? That remains to be seen, I replied softly, leaning back comfortably in my chair, observing their bewilderment with measured detachment. Nexitech retains genuine talent, but rest assured we begin with a thorough evaluation, particularly assessing how senior management fosters innovation and respects emerging voices. Victor's voice cracked, his composure utterly shattered. You can't possibly do this. I rose slowly, smoothing the elegant lines of my jacket, eyes steady and unflinching. It's already done, Victor. Security will escort you out. HR will be in touch before day's end. Pausing briefly at the door, I glanced back over my shoulder, allowing the faintest echo of a smile, the very one he'd given me years ago, etched indelibly in memory to grace my features. By the way, your office has an exquisite view. I think I'll keep it. The room gradually emptied, the once powerful executives leaving silently, shoulders bowed under invisible burdens. My phone vibrated quietly, Elena's name flashing across the screen. Haley, she breathed eagerly as soon as I answered, excitement crackling in her voice. How did it feel? I stepped closer to the expansive windows, watching as Victor Sterling and his team moved somberly through the lobby, far below their dignity, frayed and battered. Better than I ever dared to imagine, I admitted softly, the truth settling deep within my chest. And the stock just rose another 12%, Elena responded triumphantly, her enthusiasm palpable. Wall Street is ecstatic about Nexitech revitalizing Vertex Systems. Perfect, I murmured thoughtfully. Schedule a press conference. It's time for Lena Morgan to emerge from the shadows. A note of surprise softened Elena's tone. You're truly prepared to reveal everything? Turning slowly from the window, I gazed out toward the Texas Capitol dome, its golden contours shimmering gently beneath the warm afternoon sun. Not everything, I clarified carefully. This isn't about revenge, it's about evolution. It's about innovation triumphing over inertia, about nurturing a vision once prematurely labeled immature into the core technology of the future. The following morning, under a flawlessly blue sky, I ascended the podium positioned against the backdrop of Austin's iconic skyline, announcing Nexitech's formal acquisition of Vertex Systems. I wore the same navy blazer I had donned 6 years prior, the very day Victor Sterling had callously dismissed my ideas. No one else recognized the subtle symbolism, but its weight resonated deeply within my own heart. Reporters pressed eagerly, asking probing questions about my past, curious about the choice to remain anonymous for so long. I offered well-practiced, measured responses. Products speak louder than personalities. Results overshadow resumes. They didn't need to know about the long nights of solitude sustained by instant ramen and relentless doubt, nor the quiet voice echoing Victor's skepticism within my own mind. Yet success, I had discovered, was the ultimate silencer of uncertainty. Within a month, Vertex Systems was wholly integrated into Nexatech. True to my word, we assessed everyone equitably, some stayed flourishing anew, while others quietly departed. Lauren Carter transitioned into a steady, risk-averse compliance role, her strengths best suited to structures rather than the vision she'd once failed to grasp. Victor Sterling retired quietly. His corner office with its panoramic views became my backup workspace, a subtle yet powerful symbol, a private testament to the profound truth that no vision was too modest when wielded by determined hands. Occasionally during quiet nights, when silence blanketed the world, I would retrieve the original Flowcore proposal pages that once inspired contemptuous dismissal. Those intricate diagrams and early logic threads no longer stirred feelings of rejection, but instead reaffirmed the passion and purpose that drove me forward. Today, the Vertex building stands proudly emblazoned with Nexatech's logo, a powerful reminder of triumph through adversity. Thousands now log daily into a platform conceived and nurtured by a woman once disregarded as insignificant. And tucked carefully within the inner pocket of my old blazer, a single folded page remains my resignation letter preserved through time. On its reverse, scrawled in shaky, determined handwriting, remember this moment. It's not the end, it's merely the beginning. If you've journeyed alongside me through this story, I offer you sincere gratitude, not simply for listening, but for genuinely seeing me. There was a time when I believed shrinking quietly into the background ensured survival, that diminishing oneself earned a place at another's table. Yet through sleepless nights and countless closed doors, I've learned a profound truth: one cannot truly flourish in places determined to suppress one's light. They once called me naive, arrogant, inexperienced. Yet every rejection and overlooked idea sculpted the resilient, unwavering woman who today presides at the head of her own table, proudly owning the very building where others once doubted her worth. If this story resonated with you, consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. It truly supports me and allows more overlooked voices to be heard. And if you too have ever been underestimated, tell me your story. Share that pivotal moment when someone declared you weren't ready and how you proved them wrong, or how you will. Because this narrative isn't solely mine, it's a reflection of every overlooked dreamer who refused to remain unseen.